People say the needles of a dog are a boy's best friend, and I believe them. I mean, the nozzles are okay too, and I shiver with delight when they unfold from my dog Wazoo's gleaming carapace. I love when they spray the green grass that makes me work harder, or the purple gas that makes me daydream and hell come true. But the needles are the most magic part of the dog. Just ask anyone. 1 minute, I'm collapsed on the concrete floor of my bin, exhausted from another triple shift of playtime. The next minute, old Wazoo was scuttling over to me, his 6 spiny black legs barking sweetly. Clack, 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 clack. Right away, as tired as I am, I'm smiling again, and I can't help it. My pup always takes good care of me. And as his glossy black face gazes down at me, shiny silver needles poke out from the hundreds of facets in his big bulbous eyes. And when he leans closer, they jab into my nose, and I smell his voice in my mind, singing a story of very strong perfume like the scent given off by rotting flesh. Can there be anything more soothing than a 10-year-old boy like me, living with the perfect dog in the paradise of beast bless, in the parish of menagerie? Among dog lovers, this is what we call a good nose lick, and it's enough, all alone, to make life worth living. Do you know how lucky I am to have a dog at all? Or a dog as great as Wazoo? My same-age friend Incompleta would do anything to have Wazoo or any dog like him. This morning she reminded me again, "Are you sure you don't want to trade your dog for my breakfast, Benethy?" "Thanks, but I've already had breakfast." And from across the gray table when we eat alongside dozens of fellow playtimers, I hold up my bowl of delicious red morning clay, sweetened with a garish of baby chicks, as adorable as they are delicious, and the chicks' tiny black bodies scurry around on 8 spindly legs, trying to avoid my white plastic spoon. I have another idea. She reaches over my right shoulder and 2 long rust-colored antennae brush her hand. We could trade my pet for your pet. And the body of a young kitten flows over her shoulder, hundreds of tiny legs flickering under its segmented scarlet shell, and the body just keeps coming, wrapping around her 3 times like a gleaming stole. Love Bite is adorable. I reach over to pet the kitten's smooth head, laughing as it snaps at me with its jagged pincers, and Incompleta puts her hand under the kitten's mouth, which disgorges a glob of lumpy green ooze. Just listen to her purr. I hear it. I tell her I do. What a beautiful sound. I say, though, I still believe there's nothing as sweet as the bark of a dog. But are you serious about trading her? Why would you ever give her up? Because dogs are just the best. And her freckled face reddens, stares at Wazoo, who then scuttles down off my back under the table. Love Bite's tail scrolls along Incompleta's head, little legs fluttering through her short red hair. And yours is the best ever. She is right about that. Smiling, I reach under the table to feel Wazoo's bristly proboscis quivering, making my fingertips sticky. I wouldn't know what to do if I ever lost him. I can hardly remember what life was like before I got him. So, will you trade him for my kitty? No way. And I smile as Wazoo hops and barks, bumping the underside of the table. Incompleta sighs. I wouldn't either, especially with the dog shortage going on. There's a shortage? I spoon scuttling baby chicks and red clay into my mouth and chew. That's right. As Incompleta eats the luxury green ooze, her darling Love Bite rears its head and jabs a clear spike into the soft spot top of her skull, sipping peak fluids from her head. I'm a little jealous. As great as dogs are, a cat still can be pretty cute when it's bonding with its owner. And you better keep a close eye on your dog if you don't want to end up with the pet pageant empty-handed. On the front of the gleaming gold medal is the image of a dog's face, complete with multifaceted eyes with needles jutting out of each facet. 2 words are emblazoned around the edge of the medal, following the curved edge. Doggiest Doggeroni. I see a date, too, and the name of the winner, and I feel a rush of joyful warmth from head to toe. As wonderful as every day of my life is, as lucky as I have been to be alive and be here, this one thing is what I most long to see. According to the medal in my daydream, the name of the winning dog is Wazoo. This year is when we will win the doggiest Doggeroni. The bunnies are biting outside when I take Wazoo for a walk after playtime. Clouds of them swirl around us, tiny dark flecks getting in my eyes, nipping at my skin, making me smile with each tiny bite, because who doesn't love bunnies and their tender little kisses? Wazoo, as usual, scuttles back and forth before me, probing black masses and smears left behind by other pets on the sidewalk. Once in a while, he gets excited and pops out his wings, shooting pink mist from the special white nozzles exposed along his back. The mist, which smells sweet like burning plastic and drying paint, always makes me feel a little tipsy when I get a whiff of it. And suddenly, Wazoo stops zigzagging and bolts off the sidewalk on a beeline. He drags me along behind him through the brush, holding his prickly leash for dear life. "What are you doing, boy? Where are you going?" Wazoo, who has never done anything like this before, answers by buzz snorting, picking up speed, rushing even more recklessly onward. I stumble on a rock, then trip on a road, nearly going down both times, but miraculously I stay on my feet. Wazoo's bark gets louder and farther trails off. The loudest comes when he hurtles into a clearing and stops, and when I stumble in behind him, I see why. Wazoo isn't a big fan of complete strangers, and the clearing is full of them. 3 cops in standard gray uniforms encircled a crouching man and a little boy younger than me on his knees. When the boy hears us, they move apart enough from me to see that the boy is crying and cradling something in his arms. Something so misshapen I can't figure out what it is. Then Wazoo barks like I've never heard before, like some kind of broken machine, and his wings unfold, and he takes to the air, and I have to let go of the leash, and he flies circles around the strangers in the clearing. What's going on here? The boy's face is wet with tears and smudged with black as he looks up at me. Moving closer, I see by the fading light that his arms are full of broken pieces of something black and shiny. Multicolored fluids drip from his elbow and run down to his knees, pooling in dirt. His father drops a hand on his shoulder, but the boy also sobs harder. Who would do something like this? Who would kill my sweet Gilgamog? Only when he says it, holds out the broken pieces, do I realize what has happened. Only then do I understand what has been in the arms since before I arrived. My heart sinks, my belly twists, and I want to run away. Meanwhile, Wazoo keeps circling overhead, making that new sound. People say the world would be dark, an awful place without the nylon knights around to keep it bright. Seeing them ride into town the next morning atop their handsome steeds, I believed it. The 7 men and women ride tall in the saddle, clad in gleaming white plastic armor from head to toe. The long lances they carry are just as perfectly white, and so are the saddles they sit on. Proud and strong, the knights stare straight ahead, fixed on their mission with unwavering focus. Their legendary horses are just as impressive. Their long green bodies clamber down the street, perfectly balanced and nimble on slender legs. Though they hardly took sturdy enough to carry the weight of armored riders. With tiny forelegs always folded, they look like they're constantly begging or praying. Though the truth is, those legs can swing, clamp suddenly in battle time. Who could resist running over to touch such beautiful animals? Not me. Among with a dozen other playtimers, I hurry over to see what the fun assembly line and pet bright green hide on the closest horse. The hide is one of the nicest things I've ever touched. Studded with points and bumps and jagged burrs and pricks my skin and draws blood. It feels so good I could hardly pet it for the rest of the day, if I just had time. And as the horse whinnies, its triangular head spins around and its big green eyes look my way. They're so pretty. Incompleta is beside me, stroking the leafy green folds of the horse's wings. I wish I had a pony like this. Is there any animal you don't want? A giraffe, maybe? Too many fangs and too much venom, you know. Just then, the knight spurs the horse and it trots out of reach. We move on to the next line, which turns out to have an even nicer hide. 2 strokes along its legs and my hand is speckled with blood. Impetuous as ever, Incompleta shouts up at the nylon knight. Why are you here? Is it because of the dog killer? The knight, a woman judging from the cut of the armor, glances down at us. 2 eyes glow bright red in the darkness under her visor, and then a third glows bright yellow between them. Curfew begins now. Proceed to your playhouse. Lock yourselves inside until further notice. Do you know who's talking and killing the pets? Do you know where to find them? Information later. Curfew begins now. Oh, jeez, I want a pony more than ever now. There's no law against leaving playtime early because who would want to do that? The fun assembly line is just what the name says. Fun to the max. But today, for the first time in my life, leaving early is exactly what I do. I leave 3 hours early, believe it or not, and it's all because of Incompleta and her cat. Bethany, you've got to help me. She dashes in the room, frantic, eyes wide, hair wild. Love Bite is gone. I admit it. At first I'm annoyed at the interruption. The screamer on the belt is in peak shriek, and I've got fired up a joystick with his name on it. So I say, gone? She slipped away somehow. And Incompleta grabs my sleeve. I was busy playing and only just noticed. Well, where could she have gone? Anywhere. You know how cats are. She shakes my arm roughly and oblivious to all playtimers who are staring our way. Please, Bethany, help me find her. And the screamer's going berserk. I have to finish him ASAP, or someone else will have to have all the fun. She's probably just somewhere in the playhouse. She's not. I've looked everywhere. She has to be outside. Maybe she sneaked out through a vent or a crack or something. I'm sure she's fine. I shrug off her hand, turn back to the screamer, raising the joystick over his already flaming navel. Cats take care of themselves pretty well. That's the last straw for Incompleta. With a loud grunt, she knocks the stick from my hand, seizes my arm, and drags me away from the fun assembly line. I try to pull away, but she's got a firm grip. Other playtimers look like they think about helping me, but none of them do. And when we get to the doorway, I grab hold of the jam and fight, determined to stay put. She responds by swinging me around against the wall and getting up in my face. What if it was your pet who was missing? And even as she hisses out the words, Wazoo scurries around us, bumping our legs, barking. Would you do nothing and just hope he came back? Wazoo's bark changes my mind. So does the memory of the kid from the clearing the night before. The one who's crying broke everything open. That dog called Gilgamar. Incompleta is right. I shake my head and stop fighting. Can somebody cover for me? I need to go look for a cat. Sure. Caustico's only too happy to take my place. Here, kitty, kitty. Here, kitty, kitty, calls Completa. We wander the forest and beast bless. The noise makes me nervous. I keep looking around, worried that the Nylon Knights might hear and punish us for breaking curfew, or worse, that the pet killer might decide to kill something other than pets. Sneaking out of the playhouse might not have been the smartest move we've ever made. Though of course I want to find Lovebite too. I can't stand the thought of any other pet owner, especially a fellow playtimer, going without the sweet companion that makes my life worth living. Lovebite! My calls aren't that loud, but at least I bring another helper to search. Antennae wiggling, Wazoo crashes through the bush. By my side, snuffling at the vegetation with his bristly proboscis. If there's one thing a dog's good at, it's hunting down a cat. Where is she? I keep getting farther from the playhouse and there's still no sign of her. Chasing a mouse, probably. Cats can't resist the claws and stingers on those things. Nothing much interests Wazoo either. What if the killer got her? What if the reason why she's coming to me is that she's dead? I bet she's fine. Cats have 9 lives, don't they? I smile away with a confidence I don't really feel. But it's hard to keep up a good front as we search further without success. Either Lovebite's a great rider, a fast traveler, or something's happened to her. An accident or attack by another animal, if not pet killer. But then, we hear a loud animal cry from nearby, followed by the sound of thrashing through the brush, moving rapidly away. Without a word of hesitation, Incompleta leaps up and bolts away in the direction of the thrashing. I'm about to race off after when I have a sudden change of plan. Barking his head off, Wazoo charges in the opposite direction, running so hard that he snaps his leash. Whatever he's after, I can't see or even hear it. What if he's heading into danger? I hesitate for an instant, looking one way then the other. Wazoo and Incompleta both need my help. Which one do I go after? As soon as I hear the sound, the one Wazoo made at the scene of the other dog's handle, my mind is made up. I run after him as fast as I can, leaving Incompleta to her own devices. But as I run, Wazoo keeps making those sounds. I wish I'd brought a joystick from the playhouse or something else I could use as a weapon. I'm just so used to a world where pets aren't killed. And the only playtime happens on the fun assembly line. I didn't even think about it. But I'm thinking about it now. As I burst into a thicket of trees and see Wazoo's face to face with some kind of monster, I'm thinking about it hard. Because the monster with its 4 legs, long tail, molted brown blackish furs, crouching, baring its gleaming white fangs, making a noise deep in its throat that can mean only one thing. And that one thing is playtime, monster style. Ears flattened back against its head, the monster snaps its jaws and let loose an unholy howl. My heart keeps pounding. My hands are shaking, but Wazoo is unfazed, fanning out his black wings. He roars at the monster with more menace than I've ever heard him before. The monster lunges, snapping and howling with vile ferocity. And instead of backing down, Wazoo lunges at the monster, spraying green grass from one nozzle black to the other. The monster lurches back, coughing and shaking its head. Wazoo presses the attack, unleashing more plumes of gas. His opponent's coughs harder than ever, stumbles back on shaky legs. Just as I cheer in my heart, things suddenly change. Loud, heavy footfalls pound toward us. Accompanied by violent thrashing, another monster explodes into the thicket. Much bigger than the first, a four-legged beast, taller than I am. Glossy black hair and long face, bone-white stripe down the middle. Before Wazoo can direct any spray in this direction, this monster whips around and lashes out with its two hind legs, blasting a brutal kick in this direction. The new monster's feet land with such force that they propel Wazoo across the thicket into a tree trunk. He slams into the wood and bounces off, dropping into a patch of weeds where he lies motionless on his back, leaking multicolored gases from his nostrils. Wazoo! Then it gets worse. More monsters straggle in from all sides of the thicket, closer in size to the first, each covered in fur of a different color, yet essentially the same type of creature as the first monster to attack. They all have similar shapes, with stubby snouts, black noses, tails. They all make the same noise in their throats, and they converge around me. I look around frantically for a way out or a weapon, but I find neither. I'm trapped and helpless in the midst of monsters who might have just killed my faithful companion. And the biggest monster with the bone-white face backs out of the way as the other monster comes closer. They let him through, concerned only with me. Go away! I try to sound tough. Get out of here! Leave me alone! Doesn't work. The ring of monsters tightens up. I said go! I start to realize this might be it. The end. And I wonder, is this what happened to the missing and murdered pets? But suddenly, then, I hear an unexpected sound. A whistle. Kind of whistle only a human being can make. And then a voice. The voice of someone older than me. So tell me. When he steps into the thicket, I see his long blonde hair, bright blue eyes. His clothes are very brown, very dirty on both. His face and hands are caked with grime. So, should I call off the dogs or let them have you? I stare at the growling monsters arrayed around me. Those aren't dogs. I tell him, though I know I shouldn't talk back given the circumstances. I have a dog. The new boy chuckles. No offense, kid, but you're barking up the wrong tree. The boy, or man, who says his name is Joe, leads me off through the forest with the monsters in tow. If I try to get away, he warns me, the monsters which he insists on calling dogs and a horse will run me down and I might get hurt. After a while, we come to an ancient cabin at the base of a tree-lined hillside, which seems to be our destination. The dogs run barking to the decrepit front door, and the horse ambles over to a rickety water trough for a drink. Welcome to camp. Joe claps a hand on my shoulder and leads me toward the ramshackle little building, or as I like to call it, home for now. The front door opens. A tall old man looks out from a cloud of wispy white hair. The dogs go crazy, jumping on their hind legs, pawing at their torso and chest. Good boys. Good boys. That's what he says to them. Hey, Grandpa. Look what I found. Oh, Joe. Grandpa wags his head. What have I told you about bringing home strays? But he doesn't know what a real dog is. He doesn't know about the old days. Grandpa eases his way back out on the door, feeding the jumping dogs with chips of black jerky from the pockets of his tattered denim overalls. Yeah, he's probably better off that way. The truth hurts. I already told him about that. Joe guides me forward. Maybe he can take it, I don't know. Eyes narrowed, Grandpa stoops and meets my gaze. The others won't like it when they get back from the hunt. They'll say you shouldn't have brought him here. But isn't that why we're doing this? Doing all of this? For people like him. Doing what? I frown. Who are the others? What are they hunting? Grandpa shakes his head. You remember what happened? What happened to the last one you brought in? He's not speaking to me. He's not even looking at me. Joe sighs in frustration. Just tell him, please. I've never heard anyone stare at me so hard as Grandpa does then. He makes me so uncomfortable. I squirm and want to run away. Reaching into his pocket, he pulls out a 2-inch long strip of jerky. Take it. When I don't reach for it, he grabs my hand and presses the jerky into my palm. Now, give it to him. He gestures. One of the dogs. Little white and tan-furred one with pointy ears, short legs, big green eyes. His name is Stubby. And Stubby scampers toward me, licking his lips, heart pounding. I jump back, drop the jerky. Stubby just gobbles it up and gazes at me, clearly hoping for more. Congratulations. You just fed an actual dog. Stubby hops up and sniffs my fingers. I wipe them on my pants and try to shed the smell of the jerky, but then he just sniffs and sniffs and licks my pants. Those other things, the ones you and everyone else think of as dogs, they aren't dogs. He walks back to the cabin, returns a moment later with a white plastic bag. It crinkles as he opens it and reaches inside. This, right here, is not a dog. He pulls something out of the bag. My blood turns icy cold. I back away when he holds it up to me. Stopped only by Joe when he clamps hand on my shoulder. This is a bug. Grandpa is wrong. I don't care what he says. The thing in his hand is nothing like a bug. It's a dog. A true dog. Like Wazoo. Complete with black proboscis. A shiny black shell that opens into wings. Bulbous eyes with hundreds of facets for popping out the silver needles that are my boy's best friend. But for once, a dog like this isn't a welcome sight. This one is not moving. Doesn't make even the slightest twitch. And the reason is clear. Its body has a gaping hole in it. It's dead. A thought occurred to me and I feel sicker than ever. You killed it, didn't you? Grandpa doesn't answer my question. If you tell enough people this is a dog, they accept it's a dog. Black bits of the dead dog trickle out. They forget what a real dog is like. Or a cat. Or a horse. Don't you see what we're saying, kid? They forget that things could be different. They could be better. Grandpa tosses the dead dog aside and marches over to grab my arm. He grips it so hard that it hurts. But some of us remember. We tend the packs. We tell the stories. We wait for the day when better things replace the ugly ones. You killed them. I twist free of Grandpa's grip. Joe makes a grab for me and I push him away. That's what you do, isn't it? You're the ones who've been killing the pets. They aren't pets, kid. They're the monsters. They're controlling you. You don't even know it. Did you kill my dog too? Did you kill Wazoo? Grandpa stands there glaring, shakes his head. His indoctrination is deep, isn't it? Again, he's talking to Joe, not even looking at me. I don't know if we can ever get through to him. That's what you used to say about me, too. That's true. Maybe you are right. We should take a break, don't you think? Sure. Grandpa turns and heads for the cabin. He pulls jerky out of his pocket, and the dogs come running. We'll pick it up later. And as I watch him go, taking a break in the last thing on my mind. If these people killed Wazoo, or even Lovebite, I will never see things their way. I will never forgive them for what they've done. And I will never let go of the life and world that I know. Come on. Let's go play with the puppies. Play? Like on the fun assembly line? But I don't have a joystick or anything. I don't even have a man opener. Don't worry. Different kind of play. And he gestures for me to come along. Joe and I hike to a nearby field, followed by dozens of dogs. The afternoon sun shines bright on the tall grass, waving in the warm breeze, none of which improves my mood one bit. I don't see how anything could, as long as I'm the one with the people, for all know, might have done something terrible to Wazoo. Something oblivious to how I'm feeling. Joe scouts through the grass, looking for something. Hey kid, you ever played fetch? With my dog, a real dog, yes. I stand close to the tree line, hoping for a chance to slip away. Joe sees something and ducks down to retrieve it. Well, that's what we're here to play. He resurfaces with a stick in his hand, fairly straight, about 2 feet long. I'll make the first throw. You can take the one after that. When he whistles, the dogs fling themselves in front of him, jumping around and making noise. Fetch, boy! When he gives the stick a throw, the dogs scramble after it, churning pell-mell across the field. One of them, a big white dog, with black spots and floppy black ears, scoops it away from another one. A little one with gray fur and pushed-in face, runs it back to Joe with a spring in his step. Good boy! Good boy! Joe scratches behind the dog's ears, takes the stick, and as he reels it up back for another throw, the spotted dog jumps around crazily, never taking his eyes off the thing. And as soon as Jack heaves it, the dog bolts off after it, joined by several others. You ready? Want to give it a shot? This isn't fetch. There's not enough fire, idiot. There's no fire in real fetch, kid. And when Joe gets the stick back, he throws it my way. Now you do it. Instinctively, I catch it. And I'm flustered when these things come bounding after it. Just throw it. Throw it as far as you can, so they get a good run out of it, see? I hesitate. They press closer. When the spotted one jumps up, grazing my chest with a paw, it's enough to make me panic and pitch the stick with a sudden burst of strength. It spins across the field, taking the pack of dogs with it, and the stress they make me feel. But the relief doesn't last long. Seconds later, the spotted dog hurtles back through the grass with a stick in its mouth, heading straight for me. Thank him. Do it again. Tell him what a good boy he is and give him another throw. Taking a slobbered-on piece of wood from the mouth of a drooling monster and possible killer of real dogs is the last thing I want to do right now. I know I should play along, but I flinch when the beast pushes a stick at me. And I turn away and he follows, persistent. Just do it. Just throw it. It won't hurt you, I promise. As I turn away, the other dogs barrel up, hurl themselves at me, leaping with jaws open to seize the stick. I let it go as I fall under the weight of them, unable to stop from toppling into the grass. My heart hammers and I'm short of breath when I hit. It's like something out of a nightmare as the pack of dogs converge around me, all fur and teeth, lolling pink tongues. It only gets worse from there. One person licks my face, dogs dragging its tongue over my cheek, and I want to scream. Then another lick. Another. And another. Stubby, the pointy-eared, short-legged one, licks my face. With as much enthusiasm as he licked my jerky-scented fingers earlier. I close my eyes, toss my head, thrash on the ground, but it doesn't seem to help. The licking continues, 3 and 4 tongues at a time, slathering my cheeks and nose and ears and mouth. Then the truly unexpected happens. Against my will, against my better judgment, something about the combined actions of those tongues on my face makes me squirm and laugh uncontrollably. I reach up to bat away the monsters. My hand comes in contact with fur, and I want to pull away, but I'm surprised at the feel of it. I've always been taught it's rough and prickly, but it's not. Something about it makes me want to keep touching it, running my hand over it just to feel the smooth texture. You all right in there? Joe's standing over me, holding the fetch stick. This fur. I run my hands over Stubby's shaggy white and tan coat. It isn't soft at all. Sure it is. It's very soft. Soft means it hurts my hands. This is the opposite of soft. I pet the fake dog some more, amazed. Joe nods and smiles. Maybe he understands. Whatever you want to call it, kid. Just then, something crashes through the grass across the field, and Stubby yaps and scampers off. And Joe quickly helps me up when we look toward the commotion. There's 5 camouflage-wearing men riding horses coming our way, looking grim. The fake dogs dart among them, tails wagging, calling out. Hey, Mike! How was the hunt this time? The man at the front of the group, broad-shouldered, middle-aged man with curly black hair and a bushy beard, just scowls and points at me. Who's that? New friend. His name is... Then suddenly, a loud, blaring noise erupts from beyond the field. A single squawk like the blast of some kind of horn. And everyone looks in the direction of the sound, which is also the direction of the camp. Without another word, Mike kicks the sides of his horse and it bolts off toward camp at fast gallops. The other 4 riders and their horses follow just as fast, whipping past us with the flurry of dogs in their wake. Joe sprints after them full tilt, and I run beside him. What's happening? What was that sound? Grandpa was calling for help. Camp is under attack. As Joe and I race into camp on foot, the battle is already underway. The horse-riding hunters fire away with pistols and rifles, the woods booming with shot after shot, all of which bounces off the gleaming white armor of the nylon knights without leaving a mark. The knights' weapons are much more effective. I see a male knight spear a hunter's chest with a long white lance, driving its sharp point through his ribs out of his back, soaked with crimson. Another knight's great green horse unfolds spiny foreleg and swings it out to clamp the throat of a hunter. Grandpa! Joe runs for the cabin, dodging knights' horses and hunters, horses all around. Stubby scurries after him, too low to the ground to go very fast, or get out of the way of the hunter and wounded horse that suddenly topple toward him. Without thinking, I dash over, grab Stubby by the scruff of his neck, and dive out from the hunter and horse. They slam down hard, just missing us as we roll into the wooden trough where Joe's horse drank water earlier. Stubby whines as I keep him tucked under my arm and watch the battle rage from hiding place. I feel his muscles twitch, but I don't let go. Maybe he wants to run to Joe, but I don't think he'll last long in the midst of that fight. Not that the hunters are much of a battle for the knights. Soon only 2 men in camouflage ride the battlefield amid the 7 pristine knights in white armor. Suddenly, though, another player joins the fray. From the doorway, the cabin, Grandpa blasts away with a shotgun. One of his shots hits a horse in the bulging green eye. Its head explodes. The horse goes down hard, throwing its rider to the ground without its lance. Grandpa's next shot isn't as lucky. It goes right between the pair of knights who charge him with lances aimed directly at his chest. And they penetrate his chest from either side. Grandpa drops the shotgun, and his eyes roll up in his head. And he dangles like a meat puppet from the lances, held erect by their crimson dripping points. Meanwhile, the pack of fake dogs attack the knights, who lost his horse, lunging and snapping furiously. Their teeth have no chance of piercing his white armor. They keep him pinned down, flailing at them with his barbed-knuckle gauntlets. He doesn't stay down for too long, though. Just as one of the fake dogs pounces, knocking him over his back, a winged figure bursts from the woods, heading straight for them and making a familiar sound. It's Wazoo! My heart jumps with excitement at the sound and sight of him. The realization that he isn't dead after all. He was only wounded and managed to recover from his injuries in time to come to the rescue. Swooping down at the dogs, Wazoo, plumes of it swirl around the monsters, making them cough and retch and stagger off with their tails ducked between their legs. The knights cough too, but he doesn't let it stop him from clambering to his feet and running back to help his comrades. At this point, the outcome of the battle is no longer in doubt. The knights have surrounded the last 2 hunters, whose guns have stopped working. It won't be long until the circle of lances pointing them inward, ending the fight. In other words, I'm about to be rescued. So why do I stay hidden under the trough? Wazoo buzzes around camp, spraying monsters with more of his black gas. I should be running to him, but I'm not. Stubby's body is warm against me. His fur feels good between my fingers. Something about him makes me want to hold him. But my loyal dog, my precious Wazoo, is right there, awaiting what will surely be a joyous reunion with me. I can imagine how wonderful it would feel to have his needles pierce my nose again, to smell his voice in my mind after so long apart. So why am I thinking about sneaking away from him, crawling off into the forest with Stubby? Has this monster cast a spell on me? I look at Stubby. He looks back at me with wide green eyes. For reasons unknown, he leans toward me, licks my nose with a wet pink tongue. For reasons unknown, I let him. Then I watch Wazoo flying past, and I realize something. I don't want to give up either of them. Perhaps there's a way that I don't have to. People say winning isn't everything, but right now, it's all I can think about. A few days ago, hiding under a trough at the hunter's camp in the woods, I wasn't sure what the future would bring. Now here I am, standing in front of thousands of people in Beast-blessed Stadium, waiting to hear if my greatest dream is about to come true. Dozens of other playtimers and their pets lined up beside me on the artificial turf field, likewise waiting for the verdict. Do any of them want this as much as I do? It doesn't seem possible. And winning does. The pet I have by my side is so wonderful in every way. He did so magnificently well in every event. I can't imagine him not winning. But if he doesn't, it won't be the end of the world. What I went through at the camp prepared me for any adversity, even as it increased my chances of winning. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. The naming of the grand prize in this year's fabulous pet pageant. I take a deep breath to steady my nerves. Incompleto, sitting down in front, blows me a kiss for luck. Love Bite, who eventually came back to her the next day in the woods, twines her segmented scarlet body around her neck and antennae twitching. A drum roll begins as the announcer keeps talking. This year's doggiest doggaroonie is... The tension in the stadium reaches its absolute peak, but I suddenly feel calm. Closing my eyes, I whisper my pet's name. Then the announcer says it. The winner is... Wazoo! The crowd roars and cheers. The other pet owners on the field slump with disappointment. And as for me, I turn to my dog and pat him on his furry head, right between his pointy little ears. Good boy, Wazoo. You did it. Wazoo's bristly proboscis twitches. He fidgets, unable to take a victory flight to mark the occasion. That's because Stubby's white and tan fur, which is clipped to its body, keeps him from deploying his wings. It's a small price to pay, though. I'm convinced that it's his fur which clinches Wazoo's winning the prize today. So, when I stand atop that hill, and the crowd continues to roar around me like an ocean, I give those two dogs, one real, one fake, the best tribute I can think of. I raise my arms overhead, cry out in the only language they might appreciate. Roar! And though the meaning of what I've just said is forever lost to me, they might understand.